Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatirai Vanachari Yamunatirai Vanachari Yamunatirai Vanachari Om Nagyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashri Chakshurumilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtitya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I heard recording stopped and I wonder if it was intentional or not.
Yes, intentional.
Okay.
Premeditated.
No worries. So I want to first and foremost say and beg for the blessings of all the gathered Vaishnavas who are like wish-fulfilling trees, and also want to apologize for any possible disappointment that may come from expecting darshan of Chandramauli Swami Maharaj and seeing my face instead. So that also is an opportunity to ask for more blessings, because certainly I'm not qualified to take up this exalted position. Yeah, so that's what I want to start with, and then with that, I'm going to share the screen. Thank you, Andrea, for explaining to me. So I'll just cover myself so I'm not distracted. And today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 27, Text 5. Kuchanutat chetava ishatat krita lopadayo ye putalingavah tatati dandam bhagavan viparti dharmasya guptyai kalanigrahaya. Synonyms. Kutaha, how. Nu, certainly. Tat, of that existence of the material body. Hetavaha, the causes. Isha, O Lord. Tat kritaha, produced by one's connection with the material body. Lobha adayaha, greed and so forth. Yeah, which. Abudha, of an ignorant person. Linga bhavaha, symptoms. Tata api, nevertheless. Dandam, punishment. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pibharti, wields. Dharmasya, of the principles of religion. Guptyai, for the protection. Kala, of wicked persons. Nigrahaya, for the chastisement. Translation and purport by humble disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Swami Prabhupada. How then could there exist in you the symptoms of an ignorant person? And this is Lord Indra speaking towards the Supreme Lord, such as greed, lust, anger, and envy, which are produced by one's previous involvement in material existence and which cause one to become further entangled in material existence. And yet, as the Supreme Lord, you impose punishment to protect religious principles and curb down the wicked. And we have 5 exalted paragraphs of a purport, which I want to choose to read first, so we are able to go through it first, and then now I'm going to speak a little bit more because I find it to be much more important than whatever I want to say. Purport. This complex philosophical statement by Indra may be analyzed as follows. In the first line of this verse, Indra refers to the main idea expressed at the end of the previous verse, namely, that the great currents of material existence, which are based on ignorance, cannot possibly exist within the Supreme Lord. The words tad detavaha and tad kritaha indicate that something causes the modes of nature to manifest, and that they in turn become the cause of that which caused them. In the second line of this verse, we find that it is material feelings such as greed, lust, envy, and anger that cause the modes of nature to manifest, and that are themselves caused by the modes of nature. The explanation of this seeming paradox is as follows. When the conditioned soul decides to associate with the material qualities, he becomes contaminated by those qualities. As stated in the Gita, chapter 13, verse 22, Karanam guna sango siyasat asad yoni janmashu. For example, in the presence of a seductive woman or a man or a woman may give in to his lower or her lower instincts and try to enjoy sex with her. By his deciding to associate with the lower qualities of nature, those qualities manifest in him or her very powerfully. He or she is overwhelmed with lust and driven to try again and again to satisfy their burning desires. Because their mind has been infected by lust, all that they do, think, and speak will be influenced by their strong attachment to sex. In other words, by choosing to associate with the lusty qualities of nature, they have caused them to powerfully manifest within themselves, and eventually these lusty qualities themselves will cause them to accept another material body suitable for affairs governed by those qualities. Heavy. The lower qualities, such as lust, greed, anger, and envy, are abudha linga bhavaha, symptoms of ignorance. Indeed, as indicated by Sridhar Swami in his commentary, the manifestation of the modes of nature is synonymous with the manifestation of a particular material body. It is clearly explained throughout the Vedic literature that the conditioned soul receives a particular body, gives it up, and then accepts another simply because of his involvement with the modes of nature. Karanam guna sangusya. Thus, to say that one is participating in the modes of nature is to say that one is accepting particular types of bodies suitable for the particular material qualities one is involved with. An ignorant bystander might have simplistically interpreted Krishna's pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill as follows. The residents of Vrindavan were obliged by Vedic principles to make certain offerings to the god of heaven, Indra. Child Krishna, ignoring the position of Indra, usurped those offerings and took them for his own pleasure. When Indra tried to punish Krishna and his associates, Lord frustrated Indra's attempt, humiliated him, and exhausted his pride and resources. Of course, this is a very ignorant perception, this whole paragraph. But this superficial interpretation is refuted in this verse. Jai. Here, Lord Indra addresses Sri Krishna as Bhagavan, indicating that he is not an ordinary child, but in fact, God. Therefore, Krishna's punishing Indra was part of his mission of protecting religious principles and curbing down the envious. It was not a display of material anger or of greed for the offerings meant for Indra. Sri Krishna is pure spiritual existence, and his simple, sublime desire is to engage all living beings in the perfect, blissful life of Krishna consciousness. Krishna's desire to make us Krishna conscious is not egotistical, since ultimately Krishna is everything and Krishna consciousness is objectively the best consciousness. Lord Indra is really the humble servant of Krishna, a fact he is now beginning to remember. So that was a short moment of forgetfulness. Jai. So now I will stop sharing and speak a little. So there are three major topics that are covered in those 5 amazing paragraphs, and I will try to cover all of them. Let's see what we go through. But one of the important things is that there's pointing out to the feelings caused by material nature. And the strongest feelings that we can experience in our human form, and I will start from the lowest mode, is fear, governed by the mode of ignorance. Then there's anger, governed by the mode of passion. And then there's love, governed by the mode of goodness. And so the 2 first ones, as we heard here, come from the material association. And there's always, and we are actually always continuously given an opportunity to transcend them. As we probably all heard this past time, Srila Prabhupada was once asked, "How do you feel when you chant Hare Krishna?" To which he responded, "I feel no fear." And just as the holy name is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the holy name is also transcendental to all modes of material nature. And so by our association of the holy name, we also can become transcendental. And it's also clearly stated here, and again we are reminded of it, that Krishna is above and beyond material nature. He is completely transcendental and fully pure and fully complete. And it's impossible for him to become contaminated because his entire body and everything about him is transcendental and spiritual. And then there is also the placement of anger. And I was thinking about that in our tradition, there's also a placement of transcendental anger. And even in this pastime, Lord Indra is chastised very heavily after what he has done and what activities he has performed. And so in that way, I was recently hearing from Swayam Bhagavan Kesha Maharaj about the transcendental anger compared with the material anger, which we all are probably very familiar with. And I would like to really draw this, the division between them. The difference between them is that the transcendental anger is deeply rooted in compassion and towards others and towards oneself. And it's always used in the mood of service and comes from selflessness. And also the transcendental anger doesn't compromise our intelligence. And so we are able to make decisions that serve our bhakti, that are not leaving the interconnectedness stage of really considering others, like how are my actions actually affecting others? What are the impacts that they're going to bring? And so in that way, we can really assess, in case we are already even coming to the stage of dissolving that conditioning of really where is my anger coming from? Because as I've noticed in myself, it's always essentially coming from material conditioning, and it's directed very horizontally outwards, and it really compromises intelligence, and it comes from a sense of separation, of really, as I said in Bhagavad Gita, of the ego not having, the false ego not having what it wants, and then the anger comes from that. And then we have a powerful example of transcendental anger, which is embodied in Lord Nrsimhadev. And I'm still feeling the impressions of Nrsimha Chaturdasi, so take the honor of actually speaking a little bit about Lord Nrsimhadev. And that is, again, another pastime of Srila Prabhupada. There was a time where devotees were painting the earlier paintings of Lord Nrsimhadev, and in the form of him ripping the body of Hiranyakashipu into pieces on his lap. And so the painting was brought before Srila Prabhupada, and he looked at it and he said, "Good, more blood." And so it's like that idea of this is actually the Supreme Personality also in the form of this really exhibiting transcendental anger, like truly being Ugra. And at the same time, it's also described how our Lord Nrsimhadev can feel compassion and affection and deep love and indebtedness and protection with his one eye towards Prahlad Maharaj, his dear devotee, and with his other eye, he can exhibit this transcendental anger directed towards Hiranyakashipu to protect his devotee. And only the Supreme Person can do that. Don't try it at home, you will not be able to do it. And it also speaks, I was thinking about karma and reactions that come from the actions we perform. And even right now, I cannot stop but think about calamities happening in this world, and how actually in this verse it really alludes that we call these things to manifestation through our material feelings and desires, because at the root we have turned away from the Lord and essentially created actions which cause so many reactions like this that are meant to purify us still, and it's still mercy of the Lord. And I heard recently through my dear friend, Chinandana Maharaj, who was speaking at Sadhu Sangha, and he was using this really beautiful metaphor of imagining like plastic chains that we just put on ourselves, and then just like it's silly to think that we cannot just break them into pieces. Still, this is how we at times interact with our own minds, that we just put those plastic chains, allowing the mind to really be attached to the material senses and material energy, believing that we are not able to actually transcend it or limit ourselves, rather than just connecting with the supreme energy or the spiritual energy through chanting, hearing, associating with devotees, and really realizing that Krishna is limitless and he can really provide and he can really support in allowing us to come closer to him. And so again, Lord Indra is receiving very heavy chastisement. And so I wanted to speak about karma as a actually very merciful feedback mechanism, because all offenses originate in inattentiveness or lack of sensitivity. And it's also often said that we can trace them back into how we chant. And so by receiving a reaction or by receiving feedback, we are able to become more attuned to the Lord's will by receiving the reactions through this, perfectly set up laws of nature. And I wanted to read a little bit about it from the Journey Within, especially because the altar of it is coming today to the Bhakti Center. So here is just 2 paragraphs at the page 212, titled "Seeing Benevolence in the Laws of Nature." The actual benefits of understanding nature's laws, including the law of karma, are realized when the understanding is applied to improve one's quality of life, not to judge ourselves or others or to make blanket assumptions about one another's suffering. Here is a meditation drawn from the realizations of ancient sages on the inherent benevolence of nature's laws. This meditation offers a grateful, positive view that takes us beyond the world's often harsh realities. The law of karma acts like a fever. Karmic reactions purge what is unhealthy in the world, just as a fever in the body burns up harmful bacteria. If you want to understand the law of karma, you have to look beneath the surface of how the world operates. Karma is not just a mechanical law, it is responsive and dynamic, nature's way of restoring health. What feels like punishment is actually for our ultimate benefit. This natural law is essentially an expression of Mother Nature's love and will ultimately heal us if we respond well to it. We just take the feedback. Don't measure the law of karma with eyes that see only the immediate, viewing only what affects the body and mind, no matter how ruthless or unjust things may appear on the surface. We have to take a broader view. We are eternal souls in need of healing and focus in order to regain our spiritual health. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Ki Jai. And that also brings me back into, it also comes back to the attention that we give to chanting the holy name. And so I will move into the second, this is second and third paragraph, which speaks about how by actions that we take now, we are building our next bodies moment by moment. And time is of the essence, because in every moment we are having a chance to cultivate desires and perform actions which are going to lead us into a hopefully better position, and that piece by piece or cell by cell we are actually building our next bodies, and hopefully these are spiritual bodies. And so what are we focusing on? Like, what are we hearing? What are we reading? What are we paying attention to? These things really add up. And I know it from my own experience. I may at times hear a single song and it just is stuck in my mind for like an hour. And it's just like, how is that 5 minutes of being exposed to something through my senses is just stuck? And so the prayer for me is like, yeah, may actually the holy name be a repeating mantra in my mind. May actually the remembrance of devotees be what my mind naturally runs to. And it's okay if we have material desires. It's a long purification process. But are we entertaining them? That's the difference. Because it's not offensive to have material desire, but it is to cultivate those desires which bring us away from the spiritual path. And we need to understand that we are in danger and that we are dealing with the disease of material conditioning. And the metaphor that came to me was just like if we have allergies, we need to be really careful about the allergens. Like if some people right now have pollen allergy, and I know some of my friends, and it's like when they go out on the street, they have to cover themselves because otherwise it will really disrupt their health. And so we need to be cautious of what is the reaction to even something like this, and on a greater, and that's going to ultimately bring us pain if we are not careful of that. And on a larger scheme, and the most universal allergy that we should have and we have is to material nature. And so we really are to remember that we are allergic to material nature because it causes our true self, the spiritual self, to be diseased, or to be covered by the material conditioning, which essentially puts us in in a condition of largest disease that we need to heal from. In the last section, which is paragraphs 4 to 5, speak about Krishna not being capable of being envious, because he is the supreme well-wisher of everybody. So how is it that Krishna can be envious? It's really impossible. These two things just don't add up. And even Krishna takes a lower position than his devotee at many opportunities, so that the devotee can be glorified. Like when he became the charioteer of Arjuna at the battlefield, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And in many other instances when essentially Krishna is more pleased when his devotees are glorified. And since everything belongs to him, he doesn't care about really us having anything because it already is his, and yet we have an opportunity to offer it, because ultimately we're going to lose anything we have materially, one, and secondly, it doesn't belong to us. And so we have a chance to actually use what we have in service and offer it within, again, with our intelligence to serve. I was very intrigued when in the last sentence it said that Krishna consciousness objectively is the best consciousness. I feel like to say that takes a lot of faith and conviction. And it's also the conviction that Srila Prabhupada has passed down to his disciples. But it also proves that Krishna consciousness is a scientific process of really regaining our spiritual selves, and that this is something that can be measured. We can actually see how our consciousness shifts by how our senses react, by what our mind remembers, where are the attachments that we're experiencing. And so this is the very simple yet extremely profound point of this class and this verse, which is the association. Like if we associate with spiritual energy by chanting, by hearing, by speaking of devotees, by serving, then we will become spiritualized. And the opposite, I am very familiar with, is being degraded. And with that, I want to read from the Great Mantra for Mystic Meditation by Her Grace Urmila Prabhu. And she has this beautiful paragraph that I want to end with. It speaks about dealing with devotees, or which is very dear to me as relationships, as a gateway to chanting and empowerment. Just as Krishna is the heartfelt friend of all living beings, one who wants to be his devotee should be a vehicle for revealing that friendship. A lover of God should love everyone who loves God. As we deal with Krishna's devotees with reverence, the holy name will gradually show his full power. Notice the his, it's a person. Then chanting Hare Krishna will bring us to spiritual health, and we will know that there is nothing greater than the name, anywhere or at any time. With that, I will conclude this monologue and ask for reflections, comments, corrections, questions, or any inputs or outputs that you would like to offer. Thank you so much for giving your attention. And thank you for putting the journey within. Maybe you can also find the Great Mantra for Mystic Meditation by Urmila Prabhu. That's also an incredibly amazing source.
I think Adipurusha Prabhu has his hand up. You just have to unmute yourself, Prabhu.
Yeah, I'll unmute. Try to unmute.
I didn't really have my hand up, but it's wonderful class. Gosh, we were just drinking it in so nicely. How you were describing how the current of material nature and the contamination by the modes of material nature makes us vulnerable to being overpowered by the lower instincts. We were traveling from New York to New Vrindavan a few days ago, and on the plane, I was remarking how so many people on the plane, and I don't think they were chanting, or maybe they were chanting something unusual. And I was like, wow, there's so many people here, and nobody's praying, nobody's chanting, nobody's reading. And actually, the most startling impression I got was people don't know or care whether the person next to them lives or dies. They practically don't even know that each other exists. There's no, even though they are really intimately connected, and everyone underneath everything, everybody loves everybody. The desire to express that, the endeavor to express that, the understanding about how to show somebody that you actually love them, it's been removed, and then people are like zombies. They're like brain dead, like dull and just completely absorbed in a bubble. Each person in a bubble, and how the spiritual world is radically different. That they're people love Krishna and they love each other, and that's it's so different, and we almost take this as normal to be walking around and not relating to anybody. But our service that the spiritual master is giving us is like you expressed this very clearly. A devotee is a vehicle for showing Krishna's love, that we're meant to show people that Krishna loves them, remind them of that, and express our affection for them, which is like when we have this book distribution service, the Sankirtan service, the Harinam service, the Prasad distribution service, whatever kind of way that our preaching is manifested, maintaining the Bhakti Center so people can come there. It's the healing, it's the awakening effort, and the reaching out, not just, considering even our own spiritual life, but how we've been given something so valuable and so precious and so perfect. Sometimes I'm in the Bhakti Center and I feel like running out into the street and grabbing somebody by their coat lapels and saying, "Don't you know what's in here? Right, I'm earlier in here." And Mataji's giving class, and it's so true and refreshing. Please, but people are so absorbed running back and forth. They're watching one dog going down First Avenue, just going down the street, looking forward to what? It's sad, Anyway, I don't know how I got into all that, but your class was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Understanding Krishna's nature's way of restoring health. Just some of the things you said were just nuggets of nectar. Thank you so much. All glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you so much. What I also heard from you is like, naturally, if we are grateful for something, we want others to experience it.
Yeah.
So if we are really grateful for the process, if we really connect with how elevating it is or elevated it is too, we naturally want to pass it on, and it's painful not to. It's like, if I don't know, like there's even like a mundane example, like if you are tasting like something really amazing, it's like naturally you want to share it with somebody. If you see like for me, if I see an amazing painting, I always want to pass it on to my like friends, and it's really that, it's like naturally. And so the gratitude is such an important gateway into being comfortable in sharing Krishna consciousness from the heart.
Our heart's overflowing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Andrea and Bhima Prabhu, and there's a question in the chat. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest doing the question in the chat first.
I was thinking about the same. Thank you for helping me make a decision. So this is from Dana Marie. Which is more important, chanting the Mahamantra or studying the Srimad Bhagavatam? If I have limited time during the course of the day, which one should I reach for first? First, I want to say that both of these are incredibly important. From our tradition, the chanting of the Mahamantra is emphasized, especially because through chanting of the holy name, the Bhagavatam is revealed to us as well, or the essence of Bhagavatam is also revealed. And so if you need to choose between the two, I also want to say that I know that if you take one step towards Krishna, he takes many more. And so as you take your first steps into wanting to spend more time with the Lord, whether through chanting or reading, you will find that you want to carve out more time as well, or find different ways. But I would say chant the Mahamantra, and then perhaps find creative ways of reading or hearing Bhagavatam, whether it's instead of hearing a podcast, or while walking, while doing dishes, or doing anything else. But yeah, the holy name is the foundation, because that's also what allows us to receive Bhagavatam. That's why we chant before Bhagavatam class. Ideally, the morning program is that we finish all our rounds before hearing, so that actually our ears and hearts can open to receive Bhagavatam also. So I hope that, yes, thank you for this sincere question. I second that, and I hope this answer was satisfying for you. Andrea, please.
Hare Krishna, dear Ananda Manjari, Dasi Prabhu, my dear sister, makes me so happy. I had so many beautiful surprises this morning. I came on early, like dreading that I was going to have to sing again, and then beautiful voice of Adi Purusha Prabhu was there, like with his guitar and with the Krishna in the background, with a beautiful mic set up so that we could hear everything beautifully. And I was like, Hare Krishna. And then all of a sudden I see you come onto the screen and you're just surrounded by green. And it just makes me think of like how Rukmini Waka Prabhu always says that green is like the color of Krishna and Radha, like together, because like of his blue and her golden hue. And then that when she sees green, it makes her think of like their love for each other. And then there you are, like just surrounded by green. And it just makes me so happy to see your face again. And so many, like Adi Purusha Prabhu said, just nuggets of nectar from your class. The main thing that I wanted to share, which I think you'll appreciate, because I know that we both come from a Catholic background, is that I shared on Saturday that my uncle left his body, and I asked for the devotees to pray for him, because even though he considered himself an atheist, and again, thanks to Adi Purusha pointing out, like if whatever little service I can do, if he gets benefit of that, I appreciate it. So thank you. Yeah, putting it into the spiritual bank for him. And I just appreciated getting the prayers of the devotees. And then what I also really appreciated is that my family is doing 9 days of doing like a special rosary every night for him. And we started on Tuesday, and I was able to participate yesterday. And it's a little bit of an austerity for me because it's so late at night, because we have the time difference between Colombia and United States. But I realized it's such an important thing for me to do, to show up and be a part of the prayer, and to show up as a devotee and show them that even though like they're always like, oh, they call me Paola Andrea. Paola Andrea's, Hare Krishna now, that Paola Andrea still is a prayerful person, and prayer, no matter which prayer it is important. So showing up for prayer is the important part of this share that I wanted to do. And also just like in between when they're doing prayers that I don't know, like because I got myself my cheat sheet for the rosary because it's been a long time since I've done it, but there were prayers that were still being said that weren't on my cheat sheet. Like what I would do was I was chanting the Mahamantra, and I told Paul, I was just chanting the Mahamantra in between when I didn't know the prayers. And he was like, that's great. that's the best prayer you can continue doing for your uncle.
Mm.
So just, it seems random, but I think it's related to what you're talking about. And I just wanted to thank you and thank all the devotees for your support and for your prayers for my uncle and for encouraging us to be in a prayerful mood and to be in that supplication for everybody. So thank you so much. And I love you.
Thank you so much for your love and for sharing that. Actually, it feels so aligned with my recent experiences, and it also reminds me of like the prayer on behalf of somebody else. I think it's called intercessory prayer. It's so powerful, and in fact, like I know that I cannot pray for myself. All I can do is just beg that my Gurudev is able to put a prayer on behalf of me to the Lord. And actually, I just spent 5 weeks in ISKCON New Dwarka in Los Angeles, and there was a devotee who actually left his body, and his family was from a Catholic family, and it was really beautiful to see that in his funeral, he actually allowed the devotees to put garlands on him, to put tulsi leaf in his mouth, to put tilak on his face, and it became this really beautiful merging of the two cultures, and it was just very inspiring and heartwarming to see that they also wanted to honor his tradition. And 2 days ago, I started remembering choir songs I would sing as a child, and one of them is referring to Virgin Mary, and it's called Gwiazda Morza Głębokiego. It's in Polish, and it means the star of the endless sea, referring to Virgin Mary as the star of the endless sea. When I was singing it, I was really struck by specific 3 lines, and one of the line was, please untie the knots which keep us bound materially. And then there's second line, I mean, I'm just choosing it. There's like, I think 15 lines of the whole prayer, but then it says, and please let us recognize, I'm translating, that's why it takes some time. Please let us recognize that you are our mother when you pray for us. And please allow your son to hear your prayers and to allow his ear to hear our callings. And I thought this is literally Krishna consciousness. First of all, realizing that we cannot cross the material ocean without the guidance of the spiritual master, and that we recognize Krishna, our supreme friend, by how he cares for us, or we recognize the mother and the Virgin Mary of how she continuously prays for every single one of the children, and how again we are not able to put forth the prayer and be heard. We can only be heard through the intermediary of a pure devotee of the Lord, who is the link. So I have a lot of faith hearing about this coming together to pray, and I'm sure that the gathering of the hearts and minds is going to be so powerful for this person. And I also pray that that your family is able to recognize how it's Krishna consciousness also, to just connect with the love of Godhead and our dependence on that. Thank you so much. I don't know if Bhima Prabhu is still here or not. I know he had his hand earlier, and
He's entering Samadhi by now. It's such a wonderful class. Broom Samadhi.
If there is, oh no, he is here. I missed the video or the little screen.
Haribol,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhujini, Hare Krishna. It's so wonderful to hear that your Guru Maharaj, our Guru Maharaj, is in town. I hope you get a chance to get very close to the nectar, the honey. I'd just like to say, just reiterate what Andrea said. As I become more and more involved in actual devotional service, I come to understand that, I need to simplify my mind and simplify my thoughts and simplify my desires. And what Andrea said is so potent, that any prayer, no matter what prayer it is important. And I read no matter how simple, and as we all know, these spontaneous prayers of the devotee, a simple thank you, a simple gratefulness, a simple sigh upon the opening of the deities, the darshan, a simple sigh is heard. That's a prayer. That's a sort of a connection to Krishna, that, you're emoting, you are feeling Krishna's presence in the beautiful work and worship of the pujaris and the garland makers, and etc. So I just want to thank you for giving such a simply understood elaboration of what it's all about, that we should actually be thankful for the fires of material nature that help to burn away our dross and our complications, and to get us closer to Krishna, that we're always being taught a lesson. Myself, I know that intimately, that hearing is not enough. I've had to experience everything firsthand. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much for the class.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this reflection. And also what comes to me is, and this is again coming down from, which is also why it's so important, even those little prayers, is that as we especially live in New York, it's so saturated with the mode of passion that to even just notice the detail of the work of the pujaris or the services around, or to just stop and say thank you for this flower which is now blooming on my window, is to also come to the mode of goodness, of just coming to the simplicity for a moment and realizing, well, I'm also not, it is not just me in this world. There are so many other living entities, and all of them are orchestrated. All of us are orchestrated by Krishna's arrangement as well. And so that can again be like, I think the metaphor is in like a needle out, like a plow, just like starting with simple moments and then expanding them. And just like Dana Marie asked earlier, it's like we start with maybe chanting one round a day, and then the little bit of taste or a little bit of desire to connect deeper to our practice develops, and then we make our way to 16 rounds or beyond 16 rounds, and so to every step forward is such an important step. And how can we just continue taking small steps forward? I think this is the way. Because it's a long way, but it's still comprised of tiny steps.
Yeah, that's the process. Doable steps, doable, sustainable steps. And sometimes we have to dance and bend over backwards. Sometimes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think, I'd like to go back quickly to the question that was asked in the chat.
Yes.
Who asked the question, Dominica?
Dana Marie.
Dana Marie. Srila Prabhupada put, in the early days, I think it was in New York, he put a sign on the temple wall. Early days, Srila Prabhupada, the 60s in America, and Srila Prabhupada put a sign on the door where he put things in order. So the first one was health. Second one was chanting.
Yes.
Third one was the service, and then the fourth one was reading. That's the order that Srila Prabhupada gave. But of course, our movement is not about health. Health is important, but this is Krishna consciousness movement. This is not healthy body movement. So we should understand that in context. And the context is that devotional service, chanting, reading. It's like, am I drinking today or eating? Am I doing number one or number two? It's all important. It has to be there, right? Vimaprabhu, did you appreciate my example? Wasn't it too radical?
I recently spoke with Devamrita Maharaj in person. Actually, it was last week. And I asked him a question it was specifically related to witnessing the suffering of others who are also devotees. So it's like, how do I serve my friends who may be like experiencing heavier suffering at the moment? But then it also was about specifically related to dealing with the mind. And Devamrita Maharaj spoke about how we see these things as the tools, because truly they are material, like they're material. Our bodies are material, and our mind is also a subtle aspect of material energy too. And it also means that we may not always be able to care for material tools with spiritual knowledge, although they can be integrated, but at times they also need to be cared for separately. Like if you have an injury to your body, then you need to go to a physician, still remembering that, yeah, there's a soul that lives within this body, but they need to be addressed in a way that that they do, because there are specific tools. But again, we see them as tools that are meant to be used in service, and so we approach them respectively. And so I find that to be important as well, to just put them in their right position in relationship to our Sanatan Dharma and Swadharma, and our position as eternal servants, and at the same time also not to reject that we have those tools that we need to care for and allow them to function well, because otherwise it also will be eventually impeding our service.
Thank you, Ananda Manjari. You're such an angelic being. Are you floating in the air or sitting down?
I am sitting down.
Okay. Okay.
Which means that sometimes she floats.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you.
I think that first item that Prabhupada said, health first, right? Number one, there's a reason why he put that. That is the 4 regulative principles. If you simply follow the 4 regulative principles, then you'll be healthy. There's no doubt about it. If you can just manage to stop doing the wrong things and chant Hare Krishna, will, release the anchor of material unhealthiness, and you'll be able to row across the river. You'll be able to row to the other side, where Krishna and the devotees are staying. I tried all my devotional life to make Krishna conscious happen in the mode of passion, and it just doesn't. You actually have to surrender to Krishna and the mode of goodness, and Krishna sees your sincerity in that, and then he takes your hand. If you're a good little boy or girl, Krishna will take your hand and lead you across the road to the other side. So health doesn't just mean your physical; it means your consciousness. Yeah. Do you have a healthy consciousness? Hare Krishna.
That's right. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Wonderful elaboration on
Wow,
our
new guest.
Prabhupada. What's that, Ananda Manjari? What did you say?
We have a new fairy guest with Andrea. So sweet. Thank you so much.
Bhima Prabhu is a good little boy. Krishna's boy. And Evan was given class yesterday, and he was talking about Svarup, the eternal form in the spiritual world. And I think Bhima Prabhu's Svarup got revealed to me yesterday. Do you know who Bhima is in the spiritual world?
No.
He's a mushroom. Because of the head and because of his devotee head. He's a mushroom. He's very soft. And when Krishna needs to have fun, Bhima is there.
Yeah, psychedelic. I help Krishna and Balaram have a good time.
Yeah.
I'm positively psychedelic.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Before we go too crazy, let's wrap it up. Thank you very much. Ananda Manjari, wonderful class. No notice practically, but look what came of it. Thank you, Adi Purusha Prabhu and Shikshashtakam Prabhu, for wonderful professional chanting this morning. You're becoming professional, Adi Purusha Prabhu. I'm joking. It comes from the heart.
Hopefully devotional.
Yeah, devotional. Okay, it was nice seeing everybody. Thank you for turning your cameras on for a brief second. Hemangi.
Nice seeing you, Hemangi. Nice seeing you, Dana Marie. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day. Don't choke on the smoke. It will clear. And come again tomorrow.